This morning, as we look out here from a Jewish place here at Temple Sinai out into the larger world, and being that we are Temple Sinai of Toronto, what I see very clearly this week is the failure of Canada to support its own values and its ally Israel and the Jewish people at the United Nations. I was part of I was one of many rabbinic signatories from Canada. The Reform rabbis sent a letter to the Prime Minister and to the Foreign Minister expressing our deep disappointment, our awareness, and our need to say that they had abandoned us and our community, Israel, and core values when Canada voted in favor of an amendment that failed at the UN, which named the terrorist attack on the 7th of October, which named Hamas and described their incredible violence in beginning the war that rages onward. And when this amendment was defeated, Canada voted for the resolution anyway. The letter actually, even though it's enormously critical of this decision, to me, I would be comfortable if it were even more critical, because I find the actions of our government and most Western governments in the current situation to be entirely hypocritical. They claim to care for the lives of Palestinians and act as if Israelis do not. Israel has said, we said at our rally in Ottawa, the Canadian Jewish community, quite clearly and quite meaningfully, that the Palestinian people are not our enemy. Hamas is our enemy. And yet the world would give a victory to the terrorists of Hamas by demanding, without naming their responsibility for what's happened, without demanding that all of the hostages be immediately and unconditionally released, without requiring a future for Palestinians, which requires the disarmament of Hamas and their removal from power and from any military threat to the region, because they are declared as anti-peace, anti-two-state solution, a phrase that continues to be bandied about, against any kind of recognition of the legitimate indigenous rights of the Jewish people in their land, side by side with a just and legitimate settlement for Palestinians as well. They have no interest in it. And yet we continue to hear those in our government and those in the media calling upon Israel, saying, don't make the mistake of creating the next generation of terrorists by fighting this war. What other option is it that these Western nations are providing to Israel? Israel, who was victimized on October the 7th. Israel, who is facing a genocidal, brutal terrorist enemy who's declared they will assault Israel again and again and again. So Israel is to hand a victory to today's genocidal terrorists, and that will somehow prevent there from being as many in the future. Anyone who is familiar with the region knows that Israel cannot continue to exist in this region on the indigenous land of the Jewish people if Israel cedes a victory to Hamas in the aftermath of the 7th. So if the world actually cares about the Palestinian people, as each and every one of us should, half as much as they say they do, then offer an alternative, then offer to remove Hamas from power, demand that they be removed and the hostages released, along with your demands for ceasefire and the withdrawal of Israel, of its forces from the Gaza Strip. We know that's not forthcoming because the actions that are chosen are hypocritical. Because when the West fights faraway wars and seems untroubled by the deaths of those in Iraq, of those in Syria, of those in Afghanistan, and yet stands and blames Israel for the painful, unfortunate deaths of civilians in Gaza who are there and are being consciously used by Hamas as human shields and as terrorist pawns in this horrific moment. Let's be a little more honest about what's happening, shall we? Let's speak about the possibilities, and if we think there ought to be a better one, let's offer one that is more than saying that the way in which Israel should respond to this moment is by effectively surrendering to Hamas, something that Israel never should do, and I know never will do.